Now, our next topic is all about redesigning digital infrastructure to support remote workforce. Now, this panel discussion is going to cover embracing organizational change management to reimagine the future of organization, institutional mind shift to a platform mentality, preparing networks for a remote workforce, implementing technology that enables remote collaboration, prioritizing and developing a critical infrastructure plan, identifying the best cloud deployment model, securing both physical and network access points, preparing employees to work remotely and managers to manage virtual teams. Now we have with us our panelists who have joined us. First up, we've got Golok Simli, the Chief of Technology, Passport Seva Program, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. So thank you so much, Golok, for joining us. We also have Kaushik Majumdar, the Head of Information Technology, Digital Services and Information Protection Officer, South Asia, BASF India, a doctorate in IT with experience of more than 19 years leading and driving digital transformation in chemicals, petroleum, FMCG, and IT consulting. Exposure into strategic corporate factory sales consulting, information technology roles. He's also worked with Nortel, Accenture, HP, and 123 Greetings. We also have our next Gintaudas Pasinkas, the Chief Technology Officer, European Merchant Bank, Lithuania, Europe. Passionate about technology and finance, and he's got 10 plus years of IT experience in the financial sector, strong at service, sourcing, and project management professional with Master of Science, focused on computer science and information security. We are also joined by Piyush Chowhan, Group CIO Lulu Group, responsible for creating a digital roadmap for its global operations and management of technology for its retail operations across 22 countries globally. Experience in setting up new strategic groups, BUs in areas of business, finance, operations, and analytics to achieve strong business benefits. He's got a strong domain knowledge in retail, e-commerce, and supply chain management while working for global retailers like Walmart, Target, Circuit City, Tesco, Best Buy, as amongst others. And this is going to be moderated by Dr. Uma Ganesh, Chairperson, Global Talent Track. Well, with over 3 decades of experience with skills, talent management, and education technology businesses, investing, mentoring digital startups, and supporting livelihood opportunities with a special focus on women. So very warm welcome to our entire panel. And over to you, Dr. Uma, for taking it forward. If I may request you, Dr. Uma, to kindly unmute yourself. Yes. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome all of you for this session, which is going to be really invigorating and very exciting. What with such an illustrious panel that we have with us today to discuss the subject of redesigning the digital infrastructure for remote working. As all of us are aware, COVID-19 has brought in unforeseen changes in the way we work, in the way we transact with customers, and in the way we look at business as a whole. In fact, at the peak of lockdown in India alone, we saw close to 4.3 million workers in the IT and BPM sector who decided to work from home or who had to work from home to support their customers around the world. While all of this happened very suddenly, although working remotely was not really a new phenomenon for some sectors like IT and some of the customer services related sectors, but this sort of a sudden jolt that we all experienced meant that companies, particularly the CIOs and the chief digital officers, had to quickly get onto their feet and rethink how their digital strategy was working and what kind of changes they needed to put in place. It meant reskilling their employees. It meant readapting the processes. It also meant relooking at the cyber security systems. In fact, due to malware alone, there has been a huge impact huge losses that customers have experienced in the US and UK. In UK, close to about $1 million, and in the US, close to $13.5 million worth losses they had to experience. In India, we have experienced, due to phishing attacks, there have been false information that have been circulating, particularly about working from home, new job opportunities. A lot of it was not really accurate or true. So these have been other challenges that digital officers have had to cope with. And therefore, where do they prioritize? Is it on cybersecurity? Is it on making sure that the processes were not broken and continuity was maintained with the customers? It was also look at, it also meant they had to relook at how the employees' morale and motivation was in order to support all of these changes. And in the current scenario, where many companies are in fact beginning to think whether work from home is going to be an ongoing phenomenon, at least for some number of employees in the organization. Like IBM announced recently in India that they would like to move substantial number of their employees to continue to work from home. So in this kind of a scenario of remote working, which is going to continue for some time to come for some organizations, and for a long time to come, or permanently going to remain for some other organizations, depending upon what kind of business models they are trying to adopt and how the environment is responding. Definitely, digital officers are in a position right now to have to think about whether their digital infrastructure is adequate and what kind of moderations they need to be making. So, to discuss this subject of what challenges they are facing, what kind of new applications are available, new systems are available or required to be tweaked, we have amongst our panel, as I said earlier, very experienced thought leaders with us. To begin with, I'm going to invite Golok, who is in charge of the passport services in the External Affairs Ministry in the Government of India. And Golok, we would like to understand, how did you cope with the passport services, the requirements, the demands for passport services right through this pandemic? And particularly with your digital first strategy, how are you equipped not only to service customers, but also to get all your employees who have had to work remotely to support the customers? How has all of this transpired so far? And what are your thoughts in terms of how you plan to tweak the strategy going forward? Over to you, Golok. We are keen to hear your views.
Dr. Uma, Mr. Golak has just joined in. So if you don't mind, can we just get him to unmute himself, and probably you can just ask him the question once again.
Okay, Golak, could you please unmute yourself, and then you would possibly be able to hear me?
Otherwise, Dr. Uma, if in case he would be taking a little time since he's just joined in, could you direct the question to the next panelist, please?
Yeah, let me just give a minute to Golok and see if he's able to join us.
Sure, Dr. Uma.
Yeah, Golok, are you able to hear us? Looks like, yeah, he's probably taking some time to get onto the system. So in the meantime, let me move on to Wintertas. He is actually doing some phenomenal and very interesting work with his merchant banking services. And what I learned from him is that this period of pandemic has enabled him and his bank to look at gearing up to service a scaled up environment. And over to you, Wintertas, to tell us how are you gearing up, and particularly the digital infrastructure that you are trying to beef up to service your customers. And in that context, how remote working is something that you are facilitating in a successful manner. Over to you, Wintertas.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Cool. So as you mentioned, we are really in the exciting journey because we're pretty young bank. We are launching our services pretty aggressively. We were lucky enough from that perspective. We haven't had a huge customer base at the time when COVID-19 started. And we were also lucky enough that the timing was in sync with our plans to launch our online banking platform. So this is what we did actually during that period. So the impact to the customers was rather obvious. They since then they are able to interact with most of their services without any physical presence, and we're expanding the portfolio also pretty um, gradually on that. When it comes to some other internal changes, we're moving our services from private cloud to public clouds. We saw this as a huge opportunity because it allows us to achieve even higher degree of resiliency as well as abilities to have greater reach with lower friction. Basically meaning that you cannot compare any of the private cloud services when it comes to accessibility and let's say system integration friendliness compared to the ones that are hosted in the public cloud. So we're on that path too, because we started off with more of a public cloud, private cloud setups. So this is where we also engaged into some changes with our basically remote connections, VPN connections that we're doing. So this also we've moved to one of the public cloud providers, and this allowed us to even increase the degree of security as we're now utilizing some artificial intelligence based engine for analyzing the traffic going through our VPN users. So yeah, just basically it wasn't the case initially. We were mainly focusing on our office-based employees. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it was more of I wouldn't say this was more of a consequence, but again, I mean, some good timing for us. We've hired quite a lot of people that are full remote workers right now. So we also had some challenges to overcome, but as a matter of fact, we already did that when we've engaged into COVID-19. So per se, most of the workers became remote workers, but some of them will never be office workers. That's my point. So we are also addressing that pretty well. When it comes to our future stand, we are aiming to increase our digital only footprint as a bank. We don't have any branches and we're not looking forward to open them. What is remaining and what is in our pipeline for the nearest future, we're trying to make the full experience digital for our customers, and that's about customer onboarding that at the moment is still does have some physical touch points that we're aiming to remove. So this is all about identity validation and all those kind of things. Maybe just like a general remark, I liked your introduction very much, Dr. Uma. When it comes to like these matters about technology, processes, people, you mentioned cybersecurity. I think that everything should be a priority, or at least it should never be the priority which is disbalanced. So if you would put all your stakes on one of those, you will never be successful. You need to rather insert proportional pieces on each and every, and only then you can be strong. So I believe and I hope that we were pretty successful on this so far, because we're trying to maintain this holistic perspective.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ginchatas. Really exciting to learn about how you have been fortunate to be in a position to scale your business at this time, and especially take this holistic view as to how your digital strategy is currently positioned. I'll come back to you with some questions a little later. Let me now move to Kaushik. And Kaushik, what we would like to hear from you is, of course, what are the key levers of your digital strategy, particularly in your kind of organization? How have you been able to address the demands of supply chain? How did you manage to ensure that on the one hand, the supply chain was uninterrupted, and at the same time, how did we manage to gear up your people who were working, I'm sure, remotely like many other organizations? And how did you manage to upskill them very quickly? And more importantly, going forward for the new world, the new post-COVID world, or the new normal that all of us are getting used to, how are you envisioning the digital infrastructure requirements for this era? Over to you, Kaushik. We would like to hear some of your thoughts on these questions.
Uh, Thanks, Dr. Uma. I believe I'm audible.
Yes,
Correct?
you are. Yes, you are.
Great.
Thank
So
you.
I think what paid us well during this period is our preparedness, which we had as part of our digital strategy that we were rolling out. And if you see the current scenario, it is nothing but a more scaled up version of a BCP that is put on place and is still running, and we don't know how long it will run. So it's as it is an extended BCP. What we factor in for BCP is very limited, right? But here everything has to be provided. So what helped us during this period is more in terms of our preparedness. So we were seeing this coming because since we are a global organization working all across the world. So the way it was, we seen this impacting the other regions, other countries. So we were preparing ourselves quite well in this a bit in advance. But where we actually you rightly spotted the right spot, supply chain, because that's a very delicate piece and that's a very important piece which has faced the biggest challenge and is still facing the challenge. It's not over yet. Let me give you some highlights. In terms of the supply chain, when the lockdown was announced, we being a chemical company, it is very important for us to know where our products are because it's chemicals, right? It deals with both hazardous and not hazardous kind of goods that we carry and that we deal with. So supply chain was really at their toes at that point of time. So what helped us to sail through is something that I would like to share in this with you. So we adapted some cloud-based tools and technologies well in advance, where we was able to provide or connect all the stakeholders when you come to supply chain, the suppliers, the when I say suppliers, it's us as an organization, the service providers, and at the end customers. So all in a same platform to provide transparency of where the goods and how the goods are moving around. So that helped us first to secure the goods, let it go, either fast track it through our route optimization program, route monitoring to the customers or to our nearby warehouses, because that was prior importance. The second part is the mobility part when it comes to the supply chain users or the supply chain guys at the day. And here we again our strategy paid off because as a strategy what we have made is that everybody in supply chain is mobile. They are able to work from anywhere, any place at any point of time. So that's what paid off. So that's the reason why we sold it through. But what still continues is that uh, it is completely different when you work from home and you actually when you work from your corporate space, and all your applications are tuned based on these ratios. Because when everybody is coming through an internet to an organization, or the internet points through an organization, and rather traveling through their internet, it's different. But everybody wants to have the same feeling, right? When you are doing a kind of unified communication or a meeting, the feeling needs to be similar. So it was again something that helped us a lot, because you have to be at this point very agile, very fast in terms of deploying new tools, new solutions, and also adaptable. When I say adaptable, it's more hearing to the users. What are they looking for? What are they? How can we be more helpful? And I was just hearing few of the other panelists in the few other topics that they were discussing of, and I can tell you why I say every time it paid off, because it's coming as an appreciation now from the all the CEOs, all the the major stakeholders, that somehow they see that IT, who was actually very silent, they were keep on contributing. Now they're in the forefront. We are compared as also as one of the warriors in the organization, who are ensuring that the supply chain is working today. They are ensuring that the links are up, tools are up, and today the feeling we have to provide is, whether you're in office or at home, it's similar, right? That's the new normal, and that's what we are able to deliver and meet. And we are doing this quite well in terms of the way we have adopted technologies. We have automated a lot of processes using RPA, using different other technologies that are working as this point of time. These all together helped us to address the current situation.
Thank you so much, Kaushik. It was really brilliant to hear how your BCP really was in place. And particularly, I liked your reference to Corona warriors of a different kind, the supply chain warriors. And that sort of a role and that sort of a support you and your team could provide to rest of the organization. I thought that was brilliant to know about. Now I'm going to move from supply chain to customer experience and employee experience. Would like to hear, Piyush, your thoughts on how did you manage to actually keep all of these elements together, the stakeholders together. Particularly in your group, you have so many varieties of customers. And as they say, in order to make the customers happy, you have to first keep your internal customers motivated and happy. And they were having to work remotely. So, how did you do the magic? And how could you really make things work? And moving forward, what kind of changes you have in mind to bring about in the digital infrastructure that you're envisaging?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Uma. And I think, first of all, I think we should congratulate the entire CIO, IT, and every community to make sure that there is enough recognition for the hard work that everyone has done during this time. Because without the back-end digital infrastructure, I think none of it would have been successful. So I would like to congratulate the entire technology community, the entire CIO community, to make sure that there was continuity of business. And as Kaushik was mentioning, it was kind of a BCP, right? Everybody felt that this is a BCP invocation which has happened. And I think we have come out with fairly decent output, I would say. There were not many disruptions because of technology which is out there. And so it is at end of it a good job done. Coming on to the specifics that you asked, Dr. Uma, we as a retailer in the GCC region had a dual responsibility. One responsibility was to make sure that we are ensuring enough food is available to all our customers. Yeah, and the second responsibility was to make sure that it is available to them at the right time and even in a very hygienic location. So it was very important that we as a technology arm are doing enough to make sure that we are enabling the procurement of foods, we are enabling the opening of the stores, and we are also enabling routines of hygiene which are to be followed to make sure that our shops are basically a very clean and we are building trust to our customers. So you talked about customer experience. Yeah, in this times, the biggest point that everybody is looking at, are the shops clean? Are the merchandise are treated in the way that they do not lead to spread of the virus and so on and so forth. So it was very important that new ways of working were to be implemented, new thought process need to be brought in, new SOPs need to be implemented, and they have to be implemented very fast. And the collaboration piece had to be so agile and nimble that people are kind of able to monitor those hygiene routines from a remote locations. And so all this required a slightly more scaled up IT infrastructure or digital infrastructure, and we were able to work with our partners to enable remote working sessions. So obviously, we as a retailer, we cannot say that every job can be done remotely, right? So people have to go to the stores, people have to open up checkout, people have to have cash offices, people have to put in inventory and merchandise on the floor. So, but obviously the managers and then the people who oversee them were kind of given a lot of opportunities to do remote working. We were able to bring in, let's say, voice-based collaboration tools, video-based collaboration tools, so that they can see what is happening in the stores. They can actually communicate with the staff much more efficiently. So obviously, a lot of it was there. I would say most of the infrastructure was there, but it was tested and scaled up to a very different level during this pandemic times. And I would say collaboration using digital tools has been kind of taken to a very different level during this pandemic, and it gave us a very good opportunity for us to work across our head office and the retail points, and able to provide a good experience to our customers.
Dr. Uma, could I request you to kindly unmute yourself?
Sorry about that. Yeah, Piyush, yes, it was really fascinating to hear you talk about the experience, particularly cyber-physical collaboration, cyber and physical elements coming together, and use of a lot of innovative tools to ensure that particularly demanding retail environment, which was actually the opportunity to get close to the customer to service them, you ensure that that happened without any kind of break. So it was truly fascinating, and thanks for sharing those insights with the audience. We'll come back to you in a while. But now we will move to from the businesses. We heard the digital heads of different businesses talk about how they have been able to support remote working and what kind of digital infrastructure they put in place during pandemic. And now we are going to hear from a government perspective. Golok, whom we had lost a little while ago, he is now back. Golok, can I just request you to unmute yourself? Hello. Hello. Golok, you're there? Looks like we are having some challenge.
Yes, Dr. Uma, I believe we're still not able to connect with him.
Okay, so once he is back, you please let us know.
Sure.
So in the meantime, we will carry on with our conversation, and maybe I could have some supplementary questions that I wanted to ask our panelists. First, I will go to Gintatas, and you spoke about how you could you have seen your workers are actually working remotely. You do not have a situation where workers have to be physically present. I'm curious to know whether even recruitment happened remotely or they were already in place. So I'm trying to understand the human dimension. How did you manage to address that during this pandemic environment? And particularly, I think our audience will be very keen to know whether your remote workers are all in Lithuania, which is where you are from, or they are from various other parts of the world or various other parts of Europe. And therefore, how did you address a culture dimension? Can you please throw some light on all of these?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question and topic in general, which we were facing. It's very heavy question, of course, when it comes to the cultural differences, etc. But we are currently okay. Let me answer the first part. Yes, we were recruiting quite heavily during the quarantine period, and we're still doing that. We've initially started with a team based in Lithuania. Right now, we have quite a lot of remote workers from Turkey. And we also have some people from other European countries like Sweden, Germany, Spain. So it was really broad geography that we were taking. But I mean, this quarantine, maybe it even showed us that the world is way easier to access than we thought. And I mean, it opened our minds when it comes to the hiring methods and how do we utilize technology. It's really, I mean, very convenient. It doesn't really make a difference if it's 20 kilometers or if it's 2,000 kilometers away, you know? So, I mean, I would say that the experience is really very much comparable, and we haven't seen any sort of challenges out there. We saw maybe more opportunities, or let's say the presence of COVID-19 brought us like more of a bravery to look around more seriously
Okay.
around the world. So that's one part. And when it comes to the culture, of course, it's a bit of a more interesting, as I said, discussion. And of course, we have things that we now need to maintain our focus on, because with all of the people that we managed to onboard, we've managed to onboard very brilliant people. When it comes to the team, I think that this is a constant effort that you need to be cautious about, and to make them, you know, work towards the single goal, and to keep the morale up, and to, you know, keep that we are a single team after all. But that's more of an HR question, maybe to some degree. I'm also very curious about that, but I'm not in particularly focusing. I see some of the challenges, of course, but I think that it's also possible to, you know, leverage the benefits that are brought in by the different people.
Thank you, Gintitas. That was a very interesting feedback that you gave us. And of course, in today's context, particularly when we're talking about remote working and digital coming together, willy-nilly we are getting into into the space of HR as well. Now, in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask two very quick questions to our two other panelists. The question for you, Kaushik, I've been thinking that you mentioned that BCP was already in place, and that really helped you, that preparedness. But if you were to think about BCP today for remote working, more and more remote working in future, what is it one or two? What are those one or two changes that you think you will put in place in your own BCP?
I think the first thing that comes in is basically making your users mobile. So that's the first thing that makes a difference, because once they are mobile, so you have to empower or equip them to be mobile with the devices that you give to them. Then again, the next thing comes is that fine, the users are mobile. What happens to the application or the platform they are going to work with? Are they on the cloud? Are they going to require the hassle of going through all the jargons of secured way of accessing? So we are deploying a lot of security tools which actually ensures that the environment is secured, our data is secured, and we are still able to give the user the feeling of working from office when they work from home. It is very important why I'm saying so, because that this is a change of mindset. This is not only people start working from home, it's a complete change of mindset that people are going through. Because you can't see your colleagues around, you cannot mingle with your colleagues, you cannot go to your team member who is sitting beside and you say, hey, I need to get this work done, and it is all happening either through collaboration tools, chats. So multiple tools that you need to deploy, and it's all about a strategy with which you need to work. The way I said that we were ahead in time a bit because it favored us. The reason being is that we ensured that the major part of our user force is on these enabled with this kind of features. When I say they are completely mobile, so they are all on laptops, for example. So we discourage people with the desktops. That's the trend, because that makes them more mobile. So, and all laptops have their the 4G chips in it, so the SIM cards in it, so they can start working from anywhere, and the environment is secure through all our application tools, as I clearly mentioned. So these are the things which helps you. And again, the adoption of cloud is becoming the, the ROI is coming straight on to the CIOs, the CTOs. The CEOs are patting, you have ensured that the right time we invested in cloud so that we are getting the benefits today, which is visible. So you don't need to, market yourself to say that, hey, look, this is your investment that's going to give you a return in a long term. The short term return is here, you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cloud was something that was waiting to happen, and it just kind of burst. Cloud burst, you can say that is what has happened at this point of time. So the last question I have is for Piyush. Piyush, you spoke about the cyber physical coming together and the collaboration that was so very important, which you managed to put in place. Like I asked Kaushik a little while ago, if there is one thing that you feel you may want to do differently, particularly in the context of upskilling employees to take advantage of the digital infrastructure that you would be creating, what would be those areas in which you would want your employees to be upskilled?
So I think cloud and those kind of technologies is area where you need to surely look at. But one of the important things which will make this transition much more smoother is to move away from monolith applications into an app modernization platform or app modernization strategies, and that is the whole core about your digital transformation. Yeah, if you're still working on monolith applications, then obviously your ability to make a very mobile workforce is that much limited. Yeah, so we talk about cloud, but and I think some of the people are missing the trick here. They're putting a monolith application from their physical data centers into a cloud, which is absolutely not the right strategy to do. You need to make cloud native applications. You need to modernize your applications to make sure that you get the benefit of the cloud. Until unless you do that, you are still putting a strategy from one place to the other. And if I may just add to, since I'm kind of speaking at the end, one thing which I wanted to add and make sure that people understand is that, see, this work from home and work from anywhere are two very different concepts. So mobility in the workforce is a concept which has already been there, and you need to encourage that. But I'm kind of putting a little word of caution here, not a warning, but at least a word of caution that going too much extreme on saying that we will make work from home permanent, that I think is not a very good strategy. People need to be conscious about it. People need to be careful about it. Satya Nadella posted about his views that some organizations are going way too far in saying that we are trying to not have offices and have only work from home. That is very detrimental to a workforce, and that is where I brought in the concept about how can you make your workforce more collaborative using the tools, and that is the skills that you need to bring in, rather than saying that we'll not have physical offices and we'll shut down everything. I pray and hope that we don't see that era ever, because that will be detrimental for our cognitive development in the long run.
Very well said, Piyush. Mobility has to be understood as work from anywhere rather than work from home alone. And of course, depending upon the business needs, different entities are adopting different approaches to this whole concept. So on that note, I wonder, let me ask the organizers if you have time to take any questions from the audience, or should we be wrapping up?
Dr. Uma, we do have a question, but it is regarding some of the government regulations. Could I ask that question? Just
yes,
because,
please.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
I'll just go ahead and ask. So Dr. Uma, Mukesh asked that government regulations will also determine work from home in future, especially the law related to OSP. How is government approaching this, and is there a possibility of need of OSP being reviewed, as many Western countries have already done it?
Yeah, that's a very good and very pertinent question. IT companies have received the support from the Ministry of IT and Telecommunications during the pandemic. Going forward, this is something that this policy will have to be reviewed. And as Piyush said, we will have to really see in the context of our Indian population in particular, if there is very easy access to work from home, it will also raise a lot of questions about the overall economy, the opportunities for employment, the opportunities for various businesses which are actually dependent upon people who go to office or the needs for going to office. So it's sort of interrelated. It's just not to do with legislation. It also has the human angle, the economic angle. I think they will all have to come together to be able to address this question. But Kaushik, would you have any views on this?
Yeah, I'll echo what Piyush was trying to say, that work from home will be not applicable for everyone, and all organization will try to use this in a different way. It's not going to be uniform. I also agree with Piyush in terms of what he's saying or cautioning us, and that's very valid, I will tell you, because this is work from home is not about is working from home. It's also, as I said earlier, it's also about mindset change, because in IT organizations, work from home is not new. But think about manufacturing, think about FMCG, think about people who were not used to of this kind of working. So that's a complete different type of orientation that needs to be looked into. In terms of the government incentives or everything that is coming towards it, I think it needs to be looked into. It's not going to be successful for everyone. It will not fit. It's one size doesn't fit all. It's a similar kind of answer that I can give to this.
Thank you very much. It was a really invigorating session, and I would like to thank all the panelists for their wonderful contribution. I would like to end by saying that when we are looking at redesigning the digital infrastructure to support remote working, whether from home or, as Piyush said, from anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, it's going to be important for us to redefine possibly the customer experience that we want to create. And with that, there is a need to realign the processes, realign the support systems that are required for doing business, and also, of course, to support the employees. So, on that note, thank you all once again, and thanks to Trescon also for putting this panel discussion together and inviting us to be part of this event. Thank you, and all the best to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you to our entire panel once again.